Hi, I'm Dave. These are books. The complete title of this book is Tom Waits on Tom Waits, Interviews and Encounters, edited by Paul Meyer Jr. It was published in Chicago in 2011. It is a new book. The interviews included in this book, over 50 from the more than 500 Tom Waits interviews available, are arranged chronologically and span the time period from 1973 to 2008. They are grouped according to the relevant album CD release to which they refer. I've enjoyed the music and philosophy of Tom Waits since the early 70s, but reading this book shed a lot of light on who Mr. Waits is and on what he is all about. For instance, when Tom says, quote, "vocabulary is my main instrument," unquote, I mean, that's self-evident, but I had never thought of it that way before. Waits' first album, Closing Time, is described by Kenny Weisberg as intuitive barroom nostalgia, a fair description of his songwriting from the 70s. I was taken by bassist Jim Hewert's insight into recording with Waits. Quote, "We'd go into the studio and he'd rummage through the scraps of paper he had in his pocket and say, 'Okay, give me something like this.' And he'd snap his fingers to give me the tempo. He'd just sort of growl these words over the bass line that I was playing, and that became the tune. My complaint about it is when the record came out, it was Words and Music by Tom Waits. It would have been nice to give me a credit. It wouldn't have cost him much to give me an opportunity to share the royalties." Unquote. By January 1975, Waits was beginning to talk abnormally, starting to inhabit his parallel universe of words and vocabulary. I was surprised to learn that 055 referred to a 1955 Cadillac, which Tom owned at the time he wrote the tune. For some reason, I just assumed that 055 was about a 55 Chevy. Mr. Waits talks about the influences he absorbed working at Napoleon's Pizza House in Nasty City. Musical influences like Ray Charles and Mose Allison, and the spoken word artistry he calls Metropolitan Double Talk. Producer Bones Howe recalled the setup for the live recording of what became Waits' third album, Nighthawks at the Diner. I got Michael Melvin on piano, and he was one of the greatest jazz arrangers ever. I had Jim Hewart on upright bass, Bill Goodwin on drums, and Pete Crispleeb on sax. It was a totally jazz rhythm section. Herb gave out tickets to all his friends. We set up the bar, put potato chips on the tables, and we had a sellout, 2 nights, 2 shows a night. About the same Nighthawks recording setup, Jim Hewart recalled, "Some of the tunes were not what you'd call jazz tunes, but for the most part, that was like a jazz record." Asylum ads for the live double LP included the following 3 lines. Quote, "Tom Waits, a day late, $1 short. His lips around the bottle, his foot on the throttle. Music underneath a muscatel sky." All Tom Waits lyrics. Listening to Nighthawks at the Diner is described as a bit like sitting in Birdland, listening to Prez and Diz and Bird Blow. The mythology surrounding Tom Waits is such that there is an internet site, the Tom Waits Memorial Tour of Joints, dedicated to chronicling the various bars and restaurants across America where Waits either has or would spend his time. In one interview, Waits responded to the question, "What's heaven for you?" with the following answer: "Me and my wife on Route 66 with a pot of coffee, a cheap guitar, pawn shop tape recorder in a Motel 6, and a car that runs good parked right by the door." Personally, I could do without the pot of coffee and the Motel 6, and I prefer a nice guitar and a nice tape recorder. But other than that, I like the image. Actually, this Q&A session is part of an interview which Tom Waits conducted upon himself. It is 11 pages long, and for me, it is the high point of the entire book. Here's another Q&A from the interview. Question: "What is a gentleman?" Answer: "A man who can play the accordion, but doesn't." That interview also includes the question, "What are some sounds you like?" Here are 3 of the 48 answers. 17, muscle cars. 21, foghorns. 35, a Zippo lighter. Here are a few of my favorite quotes from the book. Quote, We're from another time, Nat, and we need our old friends. Quote, I thought then, and I still believe, that I was dealing with a world-class poet. Quote, I don't like the stigma that comes with being called a poet, so I call what I'm doing an improvisational adventure or an inebriational travelogue, and all of a sudden it takes on a whole new form and meaning. Quote, he takes the American loser hero, the cocktail piano player, the wise-ass smacked-around rogue who plays the nags and loses the winning ticket, and infuses the figure with a new life in a style that is at once nostalgic and completely contemporary. Quote, the jazzman obviously loved the kid. Quote, ooh, that wind, oh, Mr. Nighthawk. Quote, the startling revelation, as he revealed to Hal afterwards, was that every one of the homeless men he had met on the skids was there because of a woman. Duh. Quote, these aren't a bunch of drunk hippies with backpacks trying to play Neil Young songs and get to Big Sur. Quote, inside this quiet exterior beats the heart of a complete lunatic. Quote, a city with all the personality of a paper cup. Quote, 72 suburbs in search of a city. Quote, Californians are a breed together, united by the fact that they all wear shorts and all talk suntan nonsense. Quote, I like the ocean, but I don't feel very compatible with the type of people who are attracted to it. Quote, when he's telling the truth, he thinks for a long time before answering. When he's spinning an apocryphal one, they roll from his tongue. Quote, I would rather be a failure on my own terms than a success on someone else's. Quote, the way you affect your audience is more important than how many of them there are. Quote, I still like music. It gives me a lot to complain about. Quote, I don't think it's that important to tell the truth. Quote, I love the accordion. I tell you, I think it's going to come back, and it's going to come back big. Quote, success will kill you faster than failure. Quote, piano teachers will be shocked. Quote, I hate direct questions. If we just pick a topic and drift, that's my favorite part. Quote, you don't really finish, you just stop. Quote, a good butcher uses every part of the cow. Quote, I became a caricature of myself. Quote, I have a hard time listening to my old records, the stuff before my wife. Quote, I finally discovered that my life is more important than show business. Quote, never have I waltzed to my country 'tis of thee, nor met anyone who did. Quote, if you really wanted to start fresh and clean, you would just play with people that never played. Quote, he's gone from the flop house to the big house in the woods with the mysterious wife, 3 kids, the dogs, the garden, and a lot of funny ideas about what sounds good. Quote, it's not for everyone. Quote, well, first of all, I don't have a TV. That helps. Quote, there is no more somber enemy of good art than the pram in the hall. And for those of you who don't know, in the English language, a pram is a baby carriage. It occurs to me that Tom Waits is who the NFL should hire to do the Super Bowl halftime show. Not everyone in the Super Bowl audience would appreciate his act, I suppose, but I sure would. And he is homegrown. I recommend Tom Waits on Tom Waits to everyone. Period. Once again, the title, Tom Waits on Tom Waits, Interviews and Encounters, edited by Paul Meyer Jr. It was published in Chicago in 2011. It is a new book. I enjoyed it. I recommend it very highly. I'm Dave. These are books.